My name is Savannah Dill. I am Power Platform Consultant at Anovia Consulting. Before we get started today, I would just like to thank DynamicsCon and Doug as a whole for giving me, as well as many others, the chance to share and create content and be involved in the community. And keep an eye on the chat box. If you have any questions, I will be there after the session answering questions live. All right, so today my presentation is called Create a Dynamic Pop-Out Panel in Power BI. And just to reiterate and do some introductions, as I said, I am Power Platform Consultant at Anovia Consulting. And believe it or not, I'm only 7 months into my Power Platform journey. So I'm relatively new to the platform, but I've really enjoyed everything that has come along the way. And in light of DynamicsCon and the theme, if I were a superhero, I would choose to have shadow clones, so I could be in multiple places at once and learn multiple things in a day, even more rapidly than I already do. All right, so today we are creating a dynamic pop-out panel. And I'll show you what this kind of is in a bit, but I just wanted to talk about the advantages of this, with the big one being you can save page real estate. As we create Power BI reports, it is very easy to get cluttered very fast. Oftentimes you work with clients who want a lot of information and pages can tend to get jam-packed. So by having this option, you are able to kind of collapse and hide things like slicers, visuals, and text boxes, whatever you want to have more room on your page. I would say another benefit of this is to create more of an interactive environment. Power BI is very intuitive already, but by doing something like this, you can give a modern twist on your reports by creating app-like features. So it's very cool for your customers, for your clients, to be able to see that and have more room if they want. All right, so now it is time to move on to the demo, kind of show you guys what this is all about and how you can save space on your reports. All right, so taking a look at this, I want you to put yourself in the shoes of someone who is working for a client called Palm Leaves Nurseries. Now, Palm Leaves Nurseries is a nursery that's focused on flowers and trees. And they gave you the task of creating a dashboard that shows all of their assets, all of their trees, all of their flowers across multiple greenhouses or farms. So you came up with the idea to give them this whole dashboard, which is already pretty intuitive and interactive. As you can see, they can click on their bin and then see the content or inventory within that bin, which is already pretty cool. And for the most part, they are very happy with this report, except for one small detail. And that would be, they would like this whole map to be exploded. They want it to cover the majority of the page so they can see it more of a big picture kind of thing. So in order to do that, you came up with the idea of creating a pop-out panel, which we are going to hide all of the slicers to create more page real estate and give this map more of a prime space. So to start this, because I already have the report made and the slicers, I'm just going to kind of move them over just like this. And that'll give us some room to work on this page. If you didn't have the slicers already created on the page, you could do that at a later step, and I will tell you how and when to do that. All right, the first thing we are going to do is insert a blank button. All right, and you could conform this button anywhere you like. Personally, I just kind of like to put it on the side of the page, just so it's kind of nice and neat and out of the way. And I turn on a fill. Go with this report, I like kind of this darker maroon color, and I'll turn the transparency down so it's less see-through. You're also then going to add an icon, and I like the left arrow and to make it white. So that kind of signifies that, hey, this can be pushed out. Another option here is to change the on hover state to a different color. So once you hover over it, it will change color like this. Also, the last things I will do to this is make sure the outline is off. That's a personal preference, but you are open to do whatever you would like. And the next stage would be to actually start adding in the pop-out panel. So we're going to go to Insert, and we're going to just do a rectangle. All right. And for here, I usually give a little bit of room on the top and bottom, but like I said before, it is personal preference, as are the colors, and whatever else formatting things that I do here are pretty much up to your own free will. I'm going to just fill with a white. It's very simple, very easy to read, and that's why I usually choose it. And I'll add a shadow on here to kind of make it look like it's popping off the back side, so it's kind of elevated, if you will. All right. So now you're like, Savannah, we have these two boxes. Now what? We will go to View, and then open your bookmarks and selection panels. And these do a few different things. The selection panel lets you see everything you have on the current page. And then the bookmarks are going to be able to allow us to kind of manipulate the page to act more as like an app, as I've said before. So right here, we have the shape highlighted. So I'm just going to rename that Slicer Panel. And the button below it was our button right here. That will be our Show Slicer button. And I usually like to name these as I go, just so you don't get confused going forward. And now we're going to hunt for my slicers. So you can see as I'm dragging all of these slicers up, they are appearing on top of the slicer panel, which is exactly where we want them. And you can manipulate them a bit. We will put this one here, this one here. Okay, and this one here. All right, we're gonna let that one be a little bit of a scroll, which is fine. And like I mentioned before, if you didn't have slicers at this point already, you can add them now. So you would just go over to your visualizations panel. So many panels. You could go over to your visualizations panel and then select slicer, and then you will get a blank one pop up on your main screen, and then you can just drag it on top once you've selected the data. All right. And for the next step, we are going to add a few more buttons down here that will allow you to collapse it and clear all of your slicers very quick. So we're going to go to Insert, Button, Blank. All right, and we'll put this guy right here. And we are going to give him text. And we'll say this is the clear filters. And can make that a bit bigger. All right. And the last button we will add is a right arrow. So this button will allow us to collapse our slicer panel. Okay, we'll add some text. And you can call this anything you want. I'm just going to call it hide slicer panel. Maybe just, yeah, hide slicer panel will be fine. All right, and I've already gone back on my word. Sometimes I forget to name buttons as I go, but as I've said before, it is very important and just good habits to name things as you go along. So I'm just going to name those. Hide slicer. All right, and the last thing I'm going to do is go back to this text and kind of just make it in the middle. All right, so far we have created a button that expands it, that kind of collapses it, and that clears filters. So that's in pretty good shape so far, I would say. As I said earlier too, feel free, if you do this, to manipulate it in any way that you would like. The colors, the font, the formatting, the way you put your slicers in this panel is completely up to you. It is also good to iterate that you can put anything in these boxes on any format within the page. For example, we have created help boxes on reports before where you just have a question mark in the upper right-hand corner. You click that and it acts as like a help, and a text box pops up and that gives you help. And it will be the same concept as we do here, just kind of formatted a bit differently. All right, so now that we have all the foundation laid, we're going to start adding our bookmarks. And this is kind of where it gets important. You had named everything. So people have different ways of doing this, but personally, I just like to go through and create all of my bookmarks first. And we're going to need 3. We're going to need show your slicer panel, hide your slicer panel, and clear filters. So I'm just going to do that. I just hit add, and I'm going to just do show slicer and hide slicer and clear filters. All right. So now is for the fun part. Because we have all of this goodness already kind of popped out, I usually start with the show slicer. So I'm going to just select everything that you see here on the page, and I do that by holding down Shift. So I selected one, hold down Shift, select the bottom, and it will just select them all for you. And so you see it kind of highlighted everything on the page, which is good. And we're going to go over here to update. And we're also going to unselect data. And we're going to select selected visuals. All right, and next we can just kind of unselect everything. I usually do that just by clicking off. And the next bookmark that we would need to do is hide slicer. So now we're going to just start hiding everything that we do not want to show, except for the show slicer button. That's the only thing we'll want to show for the hide slicer bookmark. So once again, we are going to select everything that we see here, and then we'll update the bookmark to reflect what we have selected here. And then unselect data, because we don't really want the data affected. And then we will hit select visuals. Alrighty. And then the last one will be clear filters. So clear filters is going to reflect on this button alone. So once again, we're going to just unselect everything we had selected. And for this, we're just going to select our slicers. Not the slicer panel, not the background, not the buttons, just the slicers themselves. And we are going to hit update. And we will then we will check selected data, because here we want our selected visuals. I'm sorry. And because we want this because we want the data to be affected. We want, this to revert back to default. And by setting this bookmark, you are kind of creating a default environment. So if you wanted something to by default be selected, you would select that and then update the bookmark. All right, so now that we have all the bookmarks set, we should be able to go in here, select your individual buttons. So here we have the clear filter buttons, and we're going to turn this action format button on. And we will go to type bookmark. And then the bookmark we want is clear filters. And then we'll go down to the hide slicer button. And we will turn on bookmark as the type. And then hide slicer. So now when we click on it, it will hide it. And lastly, we want this show slicer button to have an action as well. So we're going to go type bookmark, and the bookmark will be show slicer. So now once we click on it, we now have our panel that pops out. And we can pop it back in, pop it out. If we start selecting our slicers, you will see that the data on screen does become effective. And if we want to clear it, we'll just hit clear. And that is true of multiple selections. And it quickly clears. All right. So now we can start manipulating the items on the page, like so, to complete our initial task, which, if you remember, is to kind of give this Palm Leaves Nurseries a bigger map, so they have more of a big picture of what's going on. They will be able to see it more clearly. And you have effectively saved more page real estate. If this page was more busy with, say, different visuals, you could easily, include a few more visuals over here, depending on the layout of your design. So we have successfully kind of created more page real estate and made another customer happy by kind of hiding all of the things that they don't immediately need to see. And don't forget, I will be at the live Q&A session after this, answering all of your questions. Once again, I would like to thank everyone in the community for voting me in and giving me this opportunity. And thank you for DynamicsCon and Doug for putting together this awesome event, and many others. thank you all so much for viewing my session and voting me in. I have had a blast so far being able to present this and share this. As the presentation has gone on, there were a few questions, one of them being kind of shocked that Power BI doesn't have a grouping function. This actually is not true. There is a grouping function. If you go to your layer order and you highlight all of those, you are able to right click and select group and then name your group. This is actually very cool because I had personally never considered this when creating those pop-out panels. So I'm definitely going to be trying to group them and make this process even faster. And I also kind of wanted to reiterate that you can put more data besides slicers in these panels. It could be a visual or really anything, an image in Power BI that you want kind of to hide or to be able to have more screen space. You can definitely do that. Another question was, how else might this be used? And like I previously said, there is there is no limitations on this. In my personal experience, another great use case for this would be to create help buttons. So if you create a report for a customer that might be using this on a wide scale basis for their company, they might be needing some additional instructions. So by having something as simple as a little question mark in the upper corner, or even on individual visuals that they could click on, that might give others who view the report more instruction on what the visual is and, how they use it and how they might interpret that data. Just check in for any more questions. I just want to thank you everyone again for this opportunity, and I hope to see you guys again next year.